Islam Makhachev is now 5th ranked in the lightweight division in the UFC. This was quite a surprise to many people, both fans and detractors alike. Islam was ranked 9th going into his fight against the 14th ranked lightweight Thiago Moises. How does beating a 14th ranked fighter result in you moving up 4 spots? Is Islam overrated or is he actually underrated? There's honestly a case for both camps in this discussion. Before we go any further, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you want more videos like this, let us know down in the comments below. We would really appreciate your support. Let's get to 1 million subscribers. Cap. Islam Makhachev is on an 8-win fight streak. His current record in the UFC is 9-1. That one was really early in his career in the UFC. He got caught with a left or right hand, I forget what it was, but he got dropped and he got finished. But it's kind of good that we have these guys that have these losses on the records. There's not that added pressure of being undefeated that guys like Khabib had to deal with, or guys like now Cyril Gane have to deal with, or Israel Adesanya. It's good to have that one loss. But anyways, let's look at what Islam has done in the UFC currently. How has his wins in the UFC matured over all those years? There's a really interesting graphic that came out. You can probably see it on the screen now. It's a graphic that shows the top 15 fighters currently in the lightweight division and their records against those same people in the top 15. So it looks at who's in the top 15 and what the record is against, say, a Dustin Poirier, right? Guys like Beneil Dariush. Currently, Islam Makhachev is 2-0 in that discussion. Those 2 wins would come over Thiago Moises and Arman Tsarukyan. Those guys currently both are ranked 14th and 12th respectively. Now, yes, I feel like those guys will mature into much better fighters. I feel Arman especially will be top 10 in the next couple of years. Thiago Moises has a skill set. He's pretty young, but we'll see where he goes. But currently, Islam Makhachev has only beat 2 people in the top 15 currently, and they're both outside of the top 10. Now, there's guys like Dustin Poirier who are 5-1, which kind of speak to how he's really the uncrowned champion currently. If it wasn't for that Michael Chandler versus Oliveira fight, Dustin Poirier would probably be the current champion. There's other guys in there that have kind of terrible records. Obviously, Tony Ferguson is 2-3 in the division. But I wanted to show this mainly because to demonstrate, yes, Islam Makhachev has a skill set. He has the skills and abilities of a top 10, of a world-class fighter. But currently, he doesn't have the resume. That's the weakest thing about his case to become a champion or to be a top 5 fighter, is his resume hasn't bloomed into what a lot of these other guys have. Charles Oliveira is 3-0 against top 15 fighters currently. Dustin Poirier, we said, 5-1. Beneil Dariush, 4-0. Islam Makhachev, 2-0. I get the argument, but if a guy is ranked 5th, I would like to have him to at least have a win or a fight against somebody that's also in the top 5 or at least top 10. So to get away from the rankings, let's look at how Islam Makhachev compares to other people in the UFC. One very interesting fact that doesn't really get mentioned very much, maybe it's because of the caliber of opponents Islam faces, but Islam Makhachev has by far the least absorbed strikes per minute in UFC history. Now, even those guys that have like 5 fights and then they disappear, you know, in any sport, there's always those random names that you've never heard of before. They're at the top of these rankings. But Islam Makhachev has a lot of fights in the UFC, and he has a lot of time in the UFC. Before his most current fights, a lot of them went to decision. He has a lot of time in that octagon, and for him to have the least absorbed strikes in UFC history at 0.77 is ridiculous. It goes to it shows how good he actually is, no matter who the opponent is. Yes, they're not top 5, they're not top 10, but they're still fighters. They still land punches. They still are human beings, right? A lot of times guys are ranked, say 15th, or not even ranked at all, but that doesn't mean that they're not as good or on level with guys that are ranked in the top 10, top 15. Islam Makhachev 0.77. There's guys that if you look at this list, this image, that you'll be like, who? Like what? Who's John Madsen? Now there might be a John Madsen fan right now screaming at me and disliking the video, but you get my point. Like there's something that goes into this. It's very significant. The guy that's in second place is 1.04. 1.04. Islam is 0.77. That's a huge gap between those two guys. The last comparison we'll do is against Charles Oliveira, the current champion. How does he stack up against Charles Oliveira? Now, I'm not saying that they're going to fight each other tomorrow or they're going to fight each other anytime. You never know how things go. How do they stand statistically throughout their UFC careers? Charles Oliveira, of course, has had a much longer career. He is a much more established. He's faced a lot more higher ranked guys. He has wins against guys that are or former champions. But let's look at how they compare against each other. One thing that jumps off the page is striking accuracy. Charles Oliveira is a very, very technical fighter. Even in his fight against Michael Chandler, even when he was wobbled, even when he was stunned, where he was still recovering, he still kept very, very technical. He always had his hand next to his chin defending. Even on that last hook that he lands on Michael Chandler, he has his guard up still. Even like he's a fighter that relies on his fundamentals. He doesn't go crazy. He always is compact. He always makes sure that he's guarding himself. Islam Makhachev, on the other hand, is 57%. Islam Makhachev is primarily a counter striker. He will make his opponent miss and then hit them back and then escape or initiate the grappling. But 57% is ridiculous against. And this is a lot of fights. Even though it was against guys that were not as good, 57% is huge in any division. The second thing we'll look at is grappling accuracy. Charles Oliveira doesn't really use his wrestling. Usually when he uses it, it's for defensive purposes. But the grappling accuracy is 69% for Islam Makhachev. He's almost 70% accurate every time he goes for a takedown. That's like almost automatic. If he goes for 2 or 3 attempts during a round, he's almost guaranteed to hit 2 of those. That's huge when it comes to any fighter in any division. He can basically on demand take down anybody he wants, and he's done it to so many different people. Arman Tsarukyan is a well-established grappler that got taken down by Islam many times, and Thiago Moises as well. Thiago Moises knows how to defend takedowns, but Islam Makhachev still was able to get it done. The last thing, I'll talk about is the significant strike defense. Charles Oliveira, when we talked about Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler, one of the biggest things that I noted was that Charles Oliveira gets hit a lot. Sometimes he likes to give up a strike, right? He'll try to absorb a strike to return one back. He's not afraid to get hit, and that does catch up to you sometimes, especially as a fighter gets older and older. And that Michael Chandler fight, he should have lost. He was on the brink of losing, but he willed himself back to win. Islam Makhachev does not put himself in those positions in comparison. Islam Makhachev has a 70% striking defense. What does that mean? He makes his opponent miss 70% of their significant strikes. 70%. He never gets hit. So in comparison, Charles Oliveira, that matchup is they're almost complete opposites. One guy grapples, one guy doesn't. One guy gets hit, one guy doesn't get hit. One guy takes down, and the other guy doesn't. Like, they're complete opposites. And I feel yes, the Islam Makhachev stats may have an asterisk on it because of the opponents that he's faced, but at the same time, all these other guys had the same type of trajectory. They all went on the same similar path, and they didn't have these type of numbers. They didn't have the numbers that Islam Makhachev is putting down. And now that Islam is in the top 5, we'll get to see, do those numbers still translate against the top world-class fighters? Well, RDA is going to find out pretty soon. Well, hopefully, if it doesn't fall through. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. What do you think about Islam Makhachev? Does he deserve to be in the top 5, or is he just overhyped? Let us know down below. Please don't dislike the video.